Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Selección Nacional with your co-hosts Derek Etienne
and Daryl Etienne, and we are the duo coming to you, talking to you about all things Haitian national team.
And this episode is a bittersweet episode because we're talking about the Haitian national team, and we always get joy talking about the Haitian national team, but this time it's not so joyful because we fell short, losing 1-0 to Puerto Rico in the preliminaries to the Gold Cup, and we'll discuss the recap right after this. And welcome back to Selección Nacional. We're here discussing the Gold Cup preliminaries between Haiti and Puerto Rico women's team, and it was something that we're just trying to figure out. Is this a nightmare? You know, are we awake yet? Like, what happened? Pinch me to see, is this real? None of us would have believed that Haiti would fall 1-0 to Puerto Rico. What's your reaction to this?
My first reaction is I'm reminded of us playing against England and giving them a game
in the World Cup.
In the World Cup, in the FIFA World Cup. We're playing against England. We're in the game, and there's a questionable call that decides the game. So, yes, we fell short, but we were there with England was number 1, number 2 in the world.
They were up there within the top 5.
Top 5. And Haiti was at 50, 51. And here we are with the best of the world competing and showing our level. Then we play China, same thing, competing and showing our level. And again, questionable calls help deal with the game or the outcome of the game. But at the end of the day, we're right there.
Yeah.
And then months later, here we go to play against Puerto Rico. Nothing against Puerto Rico. They made it. They moved on. They advanced. But now we're playing against Puerto Rico, which is one in the 130s as far as their level is concerned.
103 in the national team, 103 on the international
103 ranking. And here we are. We play them and we lose that game the way we lost. It's disappointing. It's heart wrenching. You know, it's like somebody just reached in and just pulled my heart out and said, "Yeah, I don't understand. You know what happened." I mean,
this is football. This is football where, you know, not always the best team wins. This is football where at any given day, everyone has to bring it. You have to do what has to be done. This is football where you have to execute and you have to make sure that you do what your job, your responsibility is. Mm-hmm. This is football where you have to work hard, where you don't have to be the most talented group, but you could be the hardworking group. Anything can happen in football. It's just, I just can't believe that this happened to this national team. Mm-hmm. And so let's look at how things have progressed. We have to consider that Coach Gonçalves has a unique lineup. First of all, a unique roster. And we talked about there were a lot of new faces that were in this camp. There were a lot of new faces that he brought in to choose from. And then he chose his starting 11 for this match.
Let's start right there. Is it wise to change or bringing new faces for this type of game?
Well, you asking me?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you. I'll tell you my point afterwards, but I want to know what you think about that.
Well, I think honestly, I don't think that you should change up a whole lot right before major competition. However, this national team was in a unique situation due to injuries and players who were unavailable. Mm-hmm. So we know that Coventina was not available because of injury. We know that Claire Constant, who was a center back that was very much responsible for helping us during the qualifying stages. Mm-hmm. Claire Constant, Tabitha Joseph are not available due to injury. Jennifer Limage, who got injured in the World Cup, a starting defender, she was not available due to injury. As it relates to our wings position, Rosaline Elosan, she was injured, not able to come. Okay, so we've got all of these players that was not there, not to mention Ruthnie Maturin, Bettina, Chelsea Supri, Milan Pierre-Jerome. These are players that are injured or was unavailable, and these were core players for the World Cup national team. So if you look at the coach who has to now make a decision, that I'm missing, 7, 8 quality players that helped us in the World Cup to get to our 51 ranking I'm missing these players, plus arguably one of the best players in the world in Coventina Dumone. So he has to bring in somebody.
Yeah.
He has to bring in someone new.
Well,
So,
for me, I think anytime you shake up the camp and you bring more quality or fresh blood, fresh faces, fresh legs into a camp or into an environment to see, okay, who really wants this? Who's ready? At the same time, it's like a tree. You take a tree and you shake the tree, what's going to happen? The dead leaves or the weaker leaves will fall off and the strong leaves will stand. So I'm a firm believer, if you have some younger players that are proving themselves at their level, bring them to the camp. Doesn't mean they necessarily will make the roster. Doesn't mean that they'll necessarily start, but you bring them in to see, are you really ready for this level?
Yeah.
What that also does is to the ones that's been getting the call-ups the last 3 or 4 years, you think that you don't have to work as hard because I've made it this far, I helped qualify. No, it keeps you honest because new faces are coming in saying, I want that spot.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's always good to bring faces in to a new environment. But when it comes down to the actual lineup, I think that's when we have to be wise in how we, maybe
how we integrate these new players.
How we bring the new players in.
So. Do we just throw new players into the lineup? Now it's different if they're coming in and they're balling.
Right.
It's different if they're coming in and they are just head and shoulders above all the players that we know that we have.
Right.
Then if that's the case, then you got to do what has to be done. This is football at the highest level. Mm-hmm. So I agree that anytime you do bring in new players, if there are players that are better than the starters that we have, then they should be considered. But if they are of the same value or lesser value, then I just think players need time to be proven. And the issue here is I don't think that this 1 week camp ahead of this preliminary tournament was enough time to really test and evaluate all of the players, not just the new players, but even the returning players to see who's in form, because not everybody was getting minutes with their club. Not everybody is, has been playing. Some are coming off of injuries. So I think you have to have camps that have games that can show these players in a real 90-minute situation with something on the line. And that way you can further evaluate, because sometimes in training you get bits and pieces, but you don't get the whole scope.
Yeah. So I think that the time is a factor. The coach has made a decision. We have some fresh faces in the lineup. Let's go over the lineup that we had for this particular game that we played against Puerto Rico.
This lineup that Coach Gonzalez he ended up going with had a mixture of players that were from the World Cup team, and then also some of the new players that came into the mix. Okay. So you have Kerly Tios, who started in goal. In center back, first of all, they played a 4-4-2 formation, which is different than what this team has been playing over the last few years. They normally play in a 4-2-3-1, okay, that or some type of variation of the 4-3-3. But now we went with a 4-4-2 with Kerly Tios in goal. The new player Vilan playing center back, Bien-Ami playing center back. So 2 new center backs. All right, Ketna Luis playing left back. Joseph playing right back, Damon playing left midfield, a new player, Anissa Ibrahim in midfield with Shirley Jurdi, and Darlena Joseph playing right midfield. And up front, you have Kiki Joseph with Norilia. So this is the starting lineup that Coach Gonzalez started with against Puerto Rico.
Now, again, me personally, when you're bringing in new players and fresh blood, like I said, they would have to be proven during the training, during the camp to say, and maybe that's what have taken place because this is the group that made the starting lineup.
And the coach made mention of this in his post-game interview. He said that he went with the players that he saw in training, and based on how they did in training was how he made the selection of the lineup for the 11. But he was disappointed in how some of the players did not execute as well in the game as they did in training.
Okay. So,
which is why we need games before the big game.
Right. Because if you wait for just the big game, and then now that's our revelation that maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it was luck that day, or maybe the player played bad this practice, but then now they stepped up the next 2 or 3 games, So you definitely need more games. To be honest with you, I loved having Caitlin left back. I think that Caitlin, she is one that is comfortable on the ball. If you want to build out of the back, she's one that can open up her hips, play the long ball, play entry passes. She gets in behind. She looks to cross, and then she's just vicious defending. I think that this game against Puerto Rico, the back line wasn't really tested.
They
at
weren't
all.
tested. No.
So we can't really truly evaluate the two center backs. We can't really say, hey, were they of the level in the standard? Apparently in the coach's eyes they were, which is why they got the start. But they weren't really tested at all from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico got past midfield twice. And one was when they received their penalty kick. And then the other half, they had a half shot on goal. That was it. So we weren't really tested. But I love that Ketna was actually able to get forward and just be a little bit more dangerous in creating. And that's going to be good for down the future.
That's her normal position. That's what she normally plays.
But I've seen her play left wing.
Exactly. Gonçalves has experimented a little bit with her. And giving her some freedom on the left wing. I don't know if that was by request or whether that's what he just wanted to do. So, but I think she best suits this team by playing either left back or maybe even left center back.
Yeah,
and so so again, when we have a full healthy squad, we'll talk about the future of the national team going forward. But yes, Ketna Louie is one of the strong defenders, veteran defender. But we did have some new faces in the midfield. In the midfield, you've got Dumont and Anissa Moril, and you've got Shirley Jody and Darlena Joseph in the midfield. So out of the four in the midfield, there's only one that's a normal starter, and that's Shirley Jody. The question for me was trying to figure out, because I couldn't tell based on how they were set up on the field, was this a flat four in the midfield or was it a 4-4-2 diamond? I really couldn't tell because we just looked at times just unorganized. Again, not really tested by Puerto Rico, but just when we had the ball, I just didn't really see where we had who was the 6 that was getting the ball off of the defensive center mid and who was the number 10 that's going to actually create. So Shirley Jurdy, usually when Coventina's not here and she's playing in the 10, she's usually the one that has the freedom to roam, the freedom to move. And so now that means you have to have a 6, a defensive center mid who's disciplined, who will stay home and be on the ball. And that's what the expectation was for Anissa Ibrahim.
In this particular game, we weren't exposed in our midfield from Puerto Rico, but, it was a lot. You see, Judy, she did her role. She roams. She goes over. She helps. Well, every now and then she may start the press. And then you would think that someone would drop in. But when she roams, and we're only going because to me, it seemed like it was a flat 4 across the middle. So those two, all right. So you have Ibrahim and you have Judy as our two midfielders. And now as Judy roams to the left or roams to the right, we're now left with one center mid.
If she's staying home, which
she wasn't. She was roaming as well. So we have two roamers. Okay. The good thing is Puerto Rico never exploited that. They never saw and dealt with that. But going forward, that has to be addressed. If we're going to be playing 4-4-2, we have to understand, is there an anchor sitting in? Do we go in? Does the center back, one of them, step into the midfield, or we go 3 for that moment? Something has to be communicated, and there has to be a level of understanding of everyone across the board. But in this game, there was a lot of roaming in the midfield. The midfield was open, and there could have been some vicious counterattacks against us. It's just Puerto Rico didn't have the quality to do that. And
I think for us building out of the back, I think this was probably why Gonçalves made changes at halftime, is because we were not able to create through the midfield because our midfield was not present. Our midfield we're doing other roles, we're in other positions, other spots, and then it doesn't help that Puerto Rico was sitting back. It doesn't help that they were sitting back in a low block, and so now it forces us to have to now show quality and create. But if we're not in a good shape offensively, it's difficult for us to find it. So we have to try to rely on the individual brilliance of Nerelia, or we have to rely on us seeing, can we draw them out wide with Domond and draw them out wide with Joseph and see, can we penetrate? And so we were just missing that decision making in the final third. We were missing the decision making in the final third, and then of course the big part of the story is just our execution of scoring goals.
That part there, I think we had a big struggle. For when I look at our team play, when I look at Haiti play, usually everyone, their eyes are on, Melchi, Coventina, Duvernay. Everybody's watching and saying she's going to do something special. But she wasn't here this game. So now the question is, as we said in the last week's broadcast, so which players, and it's not just one player, but which players are going to step up and now become that sure factor, become that leader, become that. And I think that that Norelia was that leader. I think that she said, I'll take it and I'll put it on my shoulders and I'll carry. You can see her passion. You can see her running with the ball, her distribution, her passing, everything. She did everything we needed her to do.
Yeah.
She was probably the most dangerous player on the field. So I think it was good, but it's not enough. We need more than just one player. All right. We just can't have one player being the star, because if that player gets injured, that player gets hurt, or gets even a knock in the game and you need 10 minutes to recover.
Or in this case, if that player just didn't have the finishing touch, then who else can step up?
Right.
Because I'm sure that Norelia will be the first to be professional, to put her hand up and say,
100%.
I have got to execute. I have to finish some of these chances, especially my penalty kick, and then some of the moments that I created, we have to put some of those in. The stats said that it was 22 shots that Haiti had to Puerto Rico's 2.
Wow.
22 shots that we created to their 2. Out of the 22 shots, 15 were on target. And Puerto Rico had 0 on target.
22 shots and 1 on target. And that's
15 on target for us.
22 shots, but 15 on target. 22 shots. And that's with us, as we just mentioned, that we weren't really great with the ball.
Yeah.
But we still created 22 shots.
Right.
We weren't as fluid as we usually have been, but we still created 22 shots. We weren't great 1v1 beating players, as normal, but we still created 22 shots and 15 on target.
And so 15 on target,
none in the goal.
But none in the goal.
Yeah.
So we have 15 shots on target and 1 penalty kick, and we didn't score. They had 2 shots on goal, 0 on target, but 1 penalty kick.
And one.
And they won the game. So for me, this was not about who's the best team, who has the best players. This was about execution. It's about just playing this game as hard as you can, being there prepared for your moments and seizing your moments. And unfortunately, Haiti didn't seize our moments, but Puerto Rico did, and they're advanced to the Gold Cup.
And what Puerto Rico did, which I would have done, they scored that penalty and they parked the bus, and they didn't even try to attack. They just said, we'll send the ball along. We'll see if Haiti was going to penetrate through our line. They had a block of 10 players, and see, can you play through us? And then I love what they did at the last 5 minutes. They knew what we talked about with the 17s, the gamesmanship, to kill the clock. The corner kick, the one young lady that came in off the bench, and she came in, and was able to shield the ball and frustrate our defense and just kill the clock. That's how you win a game. That's how you close the game out. And there was nothing we can do about it. It was frustrating to watch. I love seeing smart players be able to close out a game. I just hated that it was against us. You know?
I mean, there's a lot of criticism that, when reading the blogs and reading all of the sports media, there's a lot of criticism about the team, a lot of criticism about the coaching, about the decisions, and I think at the end of the day, whatever we want to criticize, for example, there's criticism on should we have brought in this many players? There's now we're not here to criticize because we're just here to talk about, tell the story of what we saw, we witnessed. But there's criticism about should he have bought all of these players? Well, we addressed that. Sometimes his hands were tied. He had to because of the amount of injured players we had. There was criticism of should we have changed the formation from a 4-2-3-1 to go to a 4-4-2 without giving us enough time to adjust to it. There's that criticism. Then there's the criticism of which players that you chose, where you chose players that had no international experience, that had no experience, that were now entering into this level of game with everything to play for. Should he have made that decision? So you have those decisions as well. And then as the game is progressing, there's criticism of should there be any adjustments made, any changes made. So all of these criticisms is what people are writing and saying about the national team. What's your response to some of those criticisms? Are they valid? Or, or is there a reasoning for some of it?
I think that it's relative. Some stuff is valid. Some stuff at the end of the day, it comes down to what we talked about offline. It doesn't matter what formation we had. We had 22 shots. So if we had 22 shots in a 4-4-2, 3-5-2, 4-3-2, whatever our formation was, whether it was the right formation, the wrong formation, whether it's the right starters, the wrong starters, whether we should have put this player in for subs or taken that player off. Does not matter. 22 shots, not one goal. That's on us. That's on the players. And the players have to just put their hand up and say, we did not get the job done. Let's get back to camp. We'll go back to training, get ourselves ready to go, help our club teams. And if I get the call again for the next major tournament, then I got to do better. That's all we are now, right now. But as far as that's concerned, yeah, I mean, we had that many chances. We can't come up with one. Somebody has to step up, toe poke the ball, dive in, do what you got to do to just make this happen, and it just didn't happen.
And I think it's difficult to really judge the coach's decisions because, again, we were not really tested by Puerto Rico.
So we can't even address
that. We can't really address, did he have the right formation, because his formation created 22 chances.
Yeah.
All right. We can't really question, did he have the right defenders? Okay, Vilan made a reckless challenge that caused a penalty kick, but we can't really question because they had 0 shots on goal.
Yeah.
So that would say on paper that our defense locked things down.
Yeah.
So we can't really criticize, or I think people that are watching and those who are commenting, it's difficult to criticize the coach's decision on the starting lineup when we created 22 chances.
And it's funny that you're saying that, and I know you wouldn't say this because your daughter is in that roster, and she did not get subbed in, she didn't start, she didn't play this particular game for whatever reasons. But you're still advocating saying that you cannot fully blame the coach, based on what was happening on the field, the players that were there. We're not really fully blaming the players. It's just at the end of the day, did not go our way. So I give you your props for that. Just
do I think that she could have contributed? Of course. Mm-hmm. Just like I'm sure that there are other players that could have contributed as well. But at the end of the day, whether she's on the field or not, the players that were there, we had 22 chances. That's going to be ringing in my ear. Mm-hmm. 22 chances and 0 went into the goal.
Yeah.
And so again, the coach's decision on the lineup, the coach's decision on the formation, the coach's decision on who's in the 11, the coach's decision on the tactics and the game plan, none of that can really be judged when the players did not execute.
Yeah, and execution is the name of the game.
That's the name of the game.
The name of the game is who puts the ball in the back of the net more than the other team. All right, and we did not do that in this particular game, and we paid the price for it. This was a big price. It wasn't just we lost the game, but now we have another game. No, same thing happened before. If the reason we're in this scenario is because we didn't close out games to a similar scenario.
Right. So for me, if there would be any questions of the coaching staff, if there would be any questions, it would be how can we prepare the team to mentally close out games? All right. That would be, if there was questions for me, it would be how can we close out games? How can we close out halves? All right. Because the penalty kick came in the 41st minute, right before halftime. So that's a time of concentration that at this level we have to have. So for me, and how can we close these games out? How can we, get the job done with the right mentality? The coaches, his response has been that the group's mentality, that perhaps we didn't approach the game correctly. And maybe so. I don't know. From what I saw with Nerelia, she had fire in her eyes. She wanted it. Yeah. When Bathsheba came in the second half, she wanted it. Okay, you can see that there were players. Ketna wanted it. All right, Curly wanted it. So I think that their players there wanted to win this game.
Right.
We just did not execute. And I think the question would be, how do we prepare the players to get the right mentality?
Yeah.
How do we get the right mentality before the game? Is this motivation? Is it inspiration? Now, players should have within them, the fact that I'm playing for this right here. Mm-hmm. So I should be motivated already. Mm-hmm. All right. You don't get paid to play in the national team, big time money. This is about pride of representing the country. So we should be self-motivated. Mm-hmm. But what can our coaching staff do to help players to recognize this moment, to understand the moment, to prepare us to do something better, do something different?
So again, I think going forward, looking at the future of Haitian football, particularly this particular national team, the good thing is there's still a good pool of players. It's a good pool of players, some that were not rostered, some that did not make this list because of injury, some, because of just last minute decisions, just didn't make it by the skin of their teeth. So we got a good core 30 players that coach can pick through and decide for the next major competition, and start to groom that group to gel and mesh and play more games. I think that's what we really need. Part of the preparation is more preparation games.
Yeah.
Not just against the local pro teams or the local second, third division teams. That's fine every now and then, but we need to test ourselves in the type of team we're playing against. You know what I mean? I noticed that sometimes if a team is playing a team from one of the African nations, we're playing Ghana, they'll play against Trinidad or Jamaica or Mexico, Trinidad,
similar,
Jamaica, because it's similar styles. You want to be able to get some type of meaningful matches that are going to assimilate or look like what the team is going to face in these games. I think that's something that we have to do across the board that will help us to get prepared. And I think the Federation is, they're working on it. They recognize, they understand, what has been the trend lately has been, not closing out games, second half performances, nutrition of players and stuff like that. So I think these are the things that we're going to tweak within the Federation, within the staff, but then it comes down to the players. You get 22 chances, you got to score one, at least one. You know what I mean? If you got one, the game is tied. We go into penalty kick or overtime, whatever the case is. But 22, at least one. Yeah. I can't let it go, man.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts then? Narilia has been getting a lot of flack. Looking at all the comments that people are saying.
You can say what you want about Narilia. Narilia is one of the top 3 players in this team. All right. You can say there's Dumone is number 1. Narilia is number 2, and then we're waiting for number 3 to step up. All right, so it could be Judy, it could be a Danielle,
it could be Logenia Etienne,
it could be Logenia Etienne, who's waiting and proving herself. So we don't know who the 3 is, okay? But Narilia is arguably one of the best women Haitian football players of our time, okay? That this country has seen, okay? So nothing can be said negatively about her. Yes, she missed the penalty kick, and on any other day, she scores that with her eyes closed. Okay, so we know what she can do. It's unfortunately that she can't have an off day. That's the problem for me.
That's what I was going to say.
Why can't she have I missed one chance, but my teammate came in and scored 3. Thank you for stepping up when I was having and she played good. Don't get me wrong. Narilia played really good.
Narilia was the best player on the field.
Best player on the field.
She was by far the best player on the field. Just didn't execute on the couple of shots she had and the penalty. And that's the point that I'm making is there's a lot of criticism because she missed those penalties, and this is not the first one though in a big game. So there's a lot of criticism of should she be the one to step up to take the penalty or is it now time to look for somebody else?
If Dumone is not there, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, she is the one that needs to be taking the penalty. She's the one playing at the highest level. She's getting a lot of minutes at the highest level, playing in France in the first division. She's a starter there. She's scoring goals there. Okay. When she comes back to the national team, who else is at that level?
And for me, it's confidence. It's who's got the confidence to step up and do it.
Mm-hmm. Knowing that she's right there, and Dumone is there, and Danny's there, and this one is there, and that one is there, Ketan is there, and no, I'm going to step and take that.
Ooh. Right. Who's going to step up to take it? Meaningful witness. If you look at Narilia over the years in times past, it was big games where she stepped up and took the penalty kick. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so now, there's questions of, all right, does Coventina take the penalties when she comes back? If does Coventina have the confidence to step up and take penalties? You know what I'm saying? So these are things that remains to be seen. But I don't think that Coventina Narilia is professional enough that she'll put her hand up and say, you know what, that's me. I know I need to score that. But I guarantee you, if the next one comes, she has the confidence to come back and sink the next one. Yeah. I just think that what you said was important is that the real issue that we saw with this game is that if our best player, who was Narilia Mondesir at this time, if our best player is having a hard time with the final pass, the final shot, but there is no one else that can step up to beat Puerto Rico, there is the problem with this game.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Mm-hmm. So we cannot, we wish we didn't have a penalty against us. Yes, we wish we would have scored that penalty. All right. But if Narilia didn't put the ball in the back of the net, there's no one else. There's no one else that can do it. We had some clear chances. We had breakaways. We had some shots. We had something at the post. But we need to have and this is why what I like about the future is we're going to have a pool of players to choose from. Mm-hmm. But we got to make sure that we get the best of the best.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we have the best of the best. So before, the pool was small because we've had the players that was playing in Haiti, and then we had a few players that were playing at universities, and, but then now we've got players that, because we made it to the World Cup, now we want to be Haitian. Now we can come out and we can play for the Haitian national team. So now that we're going to have players that are coming from other leagues and players that are coming from other places, there's going to be opportunities for spots to be won. But we need to also make sure that we're getting the best of the best. Yeah. Because for me, the question that a lot of people that I've been reading have been writing us and saying is, did the players that we have help this team? Did the new players help this team? And I think that it's difficult to judge that in one game. Right. But in that one game, Chelsea Domon did stand out to me. That was the left midfielder that I think that she's someone that can contribute. She's one that stood out for me. I didn't think Villan had a bad game, the center back that gave the penalty, but I just don't think that she was tested. So for me, those are the players that I saw something in this one game. Others, I think they're going to need more games. Yeah. I'm not saying that they can't help. I think that they wouldn't have been called in if they didn't have quality. Yeah. But I think they need more games in order to see if they can help us. And this is where the federation's got to help us out and give us meaningful matches so that we can get the best of the best, because what's next for us is World Cup qualifying, and there's no reason why we should not be trying to get back to where we were this past summer.
120%. Again, for me, I think that, yes, we miss Melchi Dumonet. We definitely missed her in this game, but without her, we still could have come up with a victory if we executed. We did not execute, and we were eliminated from the Gold Cup, and now we have to wait for the next competition. So what's next? What's going on?
Yeah, this is the part that's going to be difficult, because watching the Gold Cup and watching us on that stage,
the first ever
women's Gold Cup, we were supposed to be there, and so it is going to be difficult to see, because that was going to be a chance for us to not only see where Haiti is against the best in this region, but then also Colombia and Brazil, Argentina, who are just superpowers in their own right. So for me, that's the most disappointing part, is that we missed this moment. And so where do we go from here? How do we regroup? What's next for us would be the next season of Nations League. That would now start. So that I'm assuming that's in September. We'll confirm that in September it comes again, and now which serves as places to help us to qualify for the next go round. So we got to just be ready for the Nations League again, and then also preparing for the World Cup. So I think we have time. That's the good thing. We have time on our side, but we have to maximize our time by having proper camps and bringing in team players to play against some quality teams. That's the only way that we can maximize on it, so we can see what we have.
So last question for you. Coaching responsibilities. Do you think that, in some similar cases like this, I've seen coaches given another chance, like, hey, yeah, it's not on you. The players, it's clear and obvious. The players just didn't score. Then I've also seen the exact similar scenario where they're like, hey, this coach didn't do, we went to the World Cup. We didn't get past this round when and get rid of the coach. What do you think, is in the future for this team, for this particular, this man?
Yeah, it's going to come down to, what does the federation, what does the normalization committee, what is their plan? What is their vision? What do they, obviously I would think the vision is qualifying for the 2027 World Cup. Okay. And I think that would mean that we would probably have, since they're alternating years, we would probably have another Gold Cup in 2026. Right. So just before. So for me, the vision would be, how can we get us back to the highest level in Nations League? How can we get back to the Gold Cup in 26 and without a shot of a doubt, get to the World Cup 2027? So is Gonçalves going to be the guy to take us there? And so I think they're going to have to evaluate to see this game, because it's difficult. I think the challenges for Gonçalves is going to be, how do we go from qualifying for a World Cup to not qualifying for the Gold Cup? That's one of the challenges that we're going to have to look at within months, that we come from blessing the world with the potential of what Haiti can do on this stage, to now that we couldn't beat, the 103rd ranked team in the world. So that's going to be something that the federation has to look at and see, do we want to just give him the opportunity since he's kind of in the middle of, I have players from the last coach, and now I have some of my new players. I didn't really get a chance to mesh and find my own team. So is the federation going to give him an opportunity to do that? Or will the federation say, you know what, this loss was just not what we expected, and we're going to find another coach and start from here and plan
and get that coach. I think I don't know what they're going to do. Again, I see both sides of it. I agree with you. I felt that regardless of whether people agree who should have been playing, who should have been called in, who should have been subbed in, or what have you, at the end of the day, the coach's decisions created these chances that we didn't execute in. So that would mean that's a vote for the coach to stay and give him time to deal with it. On the other side, you have, was it managed properly? This one should have went in. That one should not have went in. This one should be called. That one should not be called. All right. So poor management, that would say we need another coach. So it's not our decision, for me, it's just whoever they decide to go with.
If they stay with Gonzalez or if they bring in someone new.
It has to be, I would give them a time frame. I would say we'll give you to Gold Cup 2026.
Well, no, I think,
or would you say?
I think whoever takes it now should have this World Cup cycle.
So all the way to 27.
That's why this is a critical decision for the federation. Do we continue with Gonzalez, or do we get somebody in here now that can prepare us in these next 3 years?
Right.
So I think whoever gets it, if we stay with Frederick Gonzalez, then he needs to stay all the way to after
2027.
Yes, but if we gotta go with someone else, it's got to be they have to be brought in here before the next camp so that we can begin the process, set a new culture, set new standards, and get a fresh new eyes on this national team,
and then give them 2 to 3 years to
develop something. Exactly. So that's in my opinion. Again, from what I've seen, it's difficult to judge Coach Gonzalez based on tactics because we didn't see any. We didn't see any.
But that in itself is a reason for some people to get rid of coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I want it to be clear to everyone that's watching, we're not saying get rid of him and we're not saying stay. We just want to bring up these are the decisions that the federation has to make and that they're making. And so while people are tweeting and texting and giving their notes, and because everybody's an analyst now, and saying the federation should do this, they should fire the coach. Oh, they should give the coach a chance. These are the decisions or the weight that they have as they make these decisions. So just understand it's not that easy. It's not an easy decision.
It's not that easy. I think even the coach even said that, he wants to stay with the team. He wants to remain with the team. And he doesn't believe that changing the coach would be the solution to the problem. But
every coach says that.
I agree.
Every coach says that.
But I think in reaction to this game against Puerto Rico, he would be accurate because it's arguable we didn't lose the game because of a coaching decision. We didn't lose the game because we gave up a penalty kick and we missed the penalty kick.
All right, but if I play devil's advocate here and I'm somebody else, but if we had so-and-so in, they score that. We have so-and-so in, they get that breakaway, they're scoring that. If you had so-and-so playing defense, they wouldn't make that reckless challenge. They're doing that. You put the wrong people in, So
someone's going to argue.
That's what I'm saying.
Either way.
So
that's why I think it boils down to what is the vision of the federation. And I would think the vision is we have to get back where we're supposed to be. We were on the verge of being in the top 4 of CONCACAF. That's Mexico, that's USA, that's Canada, and then us, because we beat Costa Rica the first time and we should have beat them the second time. All right. But let's consider both times we played Costa Rica without Coventina. So let's keep that in mind. We beat them with Coventina. With the first game without Coventina, and then we lost the second game without Coventina. However, we're on the verge of being right behind USA, Canada, Mexico. We can still be there because I don't think that Costa Rica would have been able to bounce back had we closed them out. And then you look at Panama All of these teams, I think Jamaica, I think that Jamaica, I forgot, is up there as well. So Jamaica it could be argued as being in the top 4 and 5 as well. But I'm saying that we were right there. This loss sets us back. This loss against Puerto Rico has set us back. And this is why the vision of the Federation has to be to get us back to be respected in the top 4, top 6 of CONCACAF. And we don't have time to do a lot of experimentation in the competition. We have to experiment with games. We have to experiment with camps. We have to experiment with friendly matches. We have to experiment with meaningful tournaments, things of that nature that's going to help us to see these players. And then, the last question that I was saying, and we've got to sign off, is there's criticisms too about the where we're getting the players from. All right. We got to be honest. We have to be honest and look at it that we only have maybe 4, maybe 5 players that are playing Division 1. All right. We have Division 1 professional. Narilia, Ketna, Coventina, they're playing Division 1. I think who else is there? So these players are playing Division 1. Bathsheba in Division 1, that's 4. You have Kiki Joseph is playing Division 1 in Russia. She's playing in Miami. So that's like a Division 2. So if we only have about 4, maybe 5 players playing Division 1, and then you have the next tier players playing Division 2 in Europe, then you have players that are playing in universities in the States, which as the level is equal to some Division 2 and some Division 1s. All right. We want that to be clear because a lot of people think that, a player that's playing in university, they're not of the level. No, there are some players. I don't think you saw
the whole women's professional league is getting players from Division 1 college.
Florida State was a university that just won the national championship, just played a friendly match against New York Gotham, which is the team that won the NWSL championship, and Florida State beat them. Wow. So it is possible, that the university levels can beat even first division teams. So whatever. The point that I'm making is this is where our pool of players have come from. Is first division pro, second division pro, and first division of university. You know what I'm saying? And so this is what we have right now. Until we start getting more players that are playing pro, more players that are playing over here, this is the pool of players that we have. But I think that within this pool, we have enough that we can compete. It's just make sure we find the best of the best. So if we're going to use players in college, are these the best college players? If we're going to use players in Division 2, are these the best in Division 2? Are these the best players in Division 1? Okay, not only are they best, but are they playing with their clubs? So I think that this is what we have to take into consideration if we're going to go forward. But I think that the Federation has their work cut out because everyone, all of us fans, expected to be in this Gold Cup. And for us to not make it in this Gold Cup was a major setback to the women's program. But it's not time to press a panic button. We can easily correct this, easily fix this, easily get back on the right track. But it's going to take us making sure that we're planning and then that everyone buys into whatever the vision is. Who's going to be the boss? Who's going to be the manager of this team? And then I think that from there, we should start moving in the right direction.
Yeah, well, Federation's got the work cut out for them, and we're 100% behind you. Anything that we can do to help, we're here. All right. This is why we're doing this, is just to bring information and insight to all of you fans that are listening and that are liking and subscribing to this channel. Again, we're here just to help the national team and give insight. All right. And we believe in this national team. We believe in the players, the men's side, the women's side, the youth sides. We believe that there are a group of players that can affect and change the world. So that's why we're doing this, to be honest.
Exactly. So next up for us is the Haitian U20 men's national team that are playing in World Cup qualifiers, trying to qualify for the 2025 U20 World Cup. And so Coach Angelo Jean-Baptiste has a crew that's in camp right now. And so we'll be looking at that coming forward on the next episode. But thanks again for tuning in. Hey, we're still pulling for our girls. All right. We're still pulling for the women's national team. This is a setback, but we're strong enough. We know that we're going to come back. And so until we meet again right here on Selección Nacional, please subscribe to this channel, subscribe and like and follow all of our social media pages. And we'll see you right back here for Selección Nacional Live.